You have been putting something off, maybe for days, maybe for weeks. You know what it is, you know you need to do it, and you are not doing it. And somewhere in the background of your mind, a quiet, persistent voice is telling you that this says something about you, that you are lazy, that you lack discipline, that other people somehow find it easier to just start. Here's what that voice gets wrong. It is not evidence of laziness, weakness, or a broken relationship with time. Procrastination is a mismatch. A collision between a brain built for one kind of world and a life being lived in a completely different one. And the proof is this. For most of human history, procrastination did not exist. Not because ancient humans were more disciplined than you, not because they had better habits or stronger motivation or clearer goals, but because the world they lived in made delay impossible, made hesitation lethal, made the gap between intention and action so small it barely registered as a gap at all. Go back 10,000 years. Your ancestors wake before dawn. The day's demands are already present, not as items on a list, not as notifications on a screen, but as physical, immediate, inescapable realities. The fire needs wood. The water needs collecting. The group needs to move before the dry season closes the route. There is no later. There is only now, and the consequences of now arriving in real time. In that world, every decision to act or not act had a weight that modern life has almost entirely erased. The hunter who hesitated at the wrong moment didn't get a slightly lower performance review. The group that delayed moving camp didn't miss a deadline. The stakes were biological. The feedback was immediate. The consequences were written not in productivity metrics but in survival itself. Anthropologist and behavioral ecologist Eric Alden Smith, who has spent decades studying the decision-making patterns of traditional hunter-gatherer societies, notes that urgency in these communities is not manufactured or externally imposed. It is structural. It is built into the texture of daily life. When the thing you need to do today is directly connected to whether you eat tomorrow, whether your children are safe tonight, whether the group survives the coming season, the question of motivation simply doesn't arise in the same way. You don't need to convince yourself to start. The world has already started for you. This is the key insight that almost every conversation about procrastination misses. The problem is not inside you. The problem is the gap. The gap between the action and its consequence. In the ancient world, that gap was almost non-existent. You hunted, you ate. The connection was direct, visible, and immediate. In the modern world, that gap has expanded to a scale that the human brain was never designed to navigate. You work on a project today, it contributes to a quarterly report. The quarterly report affects next year's budget. The budget affects a decision that will be made by people you may never meet, which will influence your life in ways you cannot fully predict. Your brain looks at that chain of causation and cannot find the urgency. Not because you are broken, because the chain is too long. The signal that should be driving action, the immediate, visceral, biological consequence, has been replaced by something abstract. A deadline, a number on a calendar, a concept with no physical weight, no sensory reality, nothing your ancient nervous system can grab onto and respond to. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio has written extensively about how the human brain generates motivation. His somatic marker hypothesis proposes that the brain uses emotional signals, physical feelings attached to outcomes, to guide decision-making. When an action is connected to a clear, concrete, emotionally resonant consequence, the brain generates a signal that drives behavior. When the connection is abstract, delayed, or uncertain, that signal weakens. Sometimes, it disappears entirely. Modern civilization has done something extraordinary. In solving the problems of immediate survival, in creating food abundance, physical safety, shelter on demand, warmth without fire, water without effort, it has removed the very conditions that kept the ancient human brain in motion. The threats are gone. The urgency is gone. The immediate feedback loop between action and consequence is gone. And in its place, it has left something the brain has almost no natural mechanism for responding to. The optional task. The future deadline. The thing that matters but doesn't hurt yet. This is why convenience, paradoxically, is one of the greatest producers of procrastination. The easier it becomes to survive without doing the hard thing today, the easier it becomes to not do it. Every layer of comfort and convenience that modern civilization adds is one more degree of separation between you and the urgency your brain needs to act. Think about what has changed in a single generation. Food arrives at your door. Entertainment arrives without effort. Social contact is available without leaving your chair. Nearly every immediate need can be met with less friction than any point in human history. And simultaneously, the tasks that actually matter, the work, the creative projects, the difficult conversations, the long-term investments of time and attention that build a meaningful life, require sustained effort with delayed and uncertain rewards. Your brain, faced with this choice, does exactly what evolution built it to do. It moves toward the immediate reward. It avoids the effortful action with the abstract future payoff. It is not malfunctioning, it is functioning exactly as designed. Behavioral economist George Ainslie documented this tendency in what he called hyperbolic discounting. The human brain dramatically overvalues rewards available right now compared to rewards available in the future. Not linearly, hyperbolically. The closer a reward is in time, the disproportionately more attractive it becomes. And the further a consequence is in the future, the disproportionately less weight the brain assigns to it. A deadline 6 weeks away carries almost no emotional urgency today. The same deadline 6 hours away suddenly produces adrenaline. The task didn't change, the temporal distance did. And your brain's response changed completely. Ancient humans didn't procrastinate not because they were stronger, but because they never lived 6 weeks from the consequence. They lived inside it. The consequence was the texture of the day. It was the weather, the terrain, the animal moving through the grass, the child who needed feeding. It was immediate and embodied and inescapable. There was no version of tomorrow in which the delay didn't matter. So, delay as a persistent pattern never had room to develop. What does this mean for you? It means that the standard advice about procrastination, just start, use a timer, break it into small steps, find your why, is addressing the symptom without understanding the cause. These tools can help at the margins, but they are band-aids applied to a structural problem. You're not someone with a motivation deficiency. You're someone whose brain is running ancient software in a modern environment, and the mismatch is producing a predictable result. The most effective interventions for procrastination are the ones that reconstruct urgency artificially, that bring the consequence closer, that make the abstract concrete, that shrink the gap between action and feedback until the brain can feel it again. Public commitments that create social consequence. Self-imposed deadlines with real stakes. Working environments stripped of convenient alternatives. Breaking long chains of causation into shorter ones, where the connection between action and result is visible today. Not because you need to trick yourself, but because you need to give your ancient brain something it can actually respond to. Something with the texture of a real consequence. Something that doesn't require you to override your neurobiology with sheer force of will every single day. You are not lazy. You are a hunter-gatherer living in a world of infinite postponement. A brain built for immediate stakes operating in an environment where almost nothing is immediately at stake. A nervous system calibrated for urgency running in a life where urgency has been engineered away. The procrastination is not the problem. The distance is the problem. The gap between the action and the thing that makes the action matter. Close that gap by whatever means available to you, and the ancient brain inside you will do exactly what it was always built to do. It will move.